Hey guys, welcome back to Digger Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to be looking at US Army Bootcamp 2022. It's been a while since I went through Australian Army Bootcamp back in 2006. So it'll be interesting to see how America's bootcamp is compared to my time a fair few years ago. I think it's a fair bit different. Even back then we realised. But yeah, original video we put down in the description, as well as my Discord. Come and join that if you want to have a chat about this sort of stuff. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, really appreciate if you're enjoying the content to hit the subscribe and like buttons for me. Try and get this content out there a bit more. Cheers guys, let's dive in and look at some drill sergeants drilling their privates or recruits. Alrighty, so from what I understand, this is a 22-week course, which is a pretty long. Kapuka for me, and what it is now, is 80 days. So you do 80 days and then move on to your initial employment training, your IETs, so your infantry training or whatnot. Let's get into it.
Why are you moving? Why are you moving?
This is Army Boot Camp.
Okay, so first thing I have to address is the amount of yelling. While we do get yelled at, obviously, in the Australian Army and at boot camp and stuff, it's not as intense. It's more, yeah, it's not quite as intense as this. You don't have people yelling at you in your face. I did have one pretty good dressing down at basic training with a Royal Marine Commando and another engineer, but yeah, not like this all the time.
Before they join the United States Army, all recruits have to graduate from a 22-week program known as One Station Unit Training, also known as OSUT. It happens here at Fort Benning, a 182,000-acre military installation that straddles the Alabama-Georgia border about 100 miles southwest of Atlanta. Every year, more than 18,000 soldiers graduate before joining the more than 470,000 people actively serving in the Army.
13, 14, 15.
Although most of the recruits that we saw during our time there were male, recruits trained together in gender-integrated platoons.
Yep, so that was the same for us during my time at basic training. We actually had a female platoon commander and multiple women who, at the ladies that were in the army and the basic that passed, they were as strong as us. They'd often put them at the front of a ruck or pack march to set the pace, and they'd set the pace pretty fast. They didn't want to, let anyone down.
Young men and women that volunteer to serve, they show up to us as civilians, and then we take them through a transformative process to turn them into soldiers.
You just go to position of attention and you stay in position of attention.
On a rain-soaked week in February, we spent 4 days inside the Army's Maneuver Center of Excellence, which trains soldiers to serve in the infantry and armor branches.
Yeah, so the way that Australia sees it is every soldier is a combat soldier first, and the secondary job, be it they're an engineer or something, that's secondary to being able to fight. It does seem like America's put a lot of focus onto this. I think it was lacking a little bit previously, but now their soldiers seem to be pretty well trained up to a pretty high standard combat wise.
We saw different companies at various stages of training.
Yeah. So, for example, we definitely didn't learn CQB drills like that, or even combat firing like that at basic training. That was done at my infantry training.
On day one,
remember catching
new
those
infantry
buses?
recruits on a bus from the Atlanta airport arrive at the 30th AG Battalion headquarters, where all new recruits are received.
Listen up! You ain't got what to hear from you at this point is yes, drill sergeant, no drill sergeant. You understand?
Can somebody just let me know because as I said, it does seem like they're focused a lot on the infantry side of things. Do infantry do boot camp together, and same as, say, a signal, do they all go together and do their training that way? Yeah.
I'm telling you, you will pass your folders to the front!
The minimum age to enlist in the Army is 17, and the maximum age is 35. The base salary for an entry-level private is about $20,000 a year.
$20,000 a year. Let's compare that quickly. I'll edit this out, but 20,000 US. Oh, all right. Yeah. So the initial pay for a recruit is 28,000 Australian dollars, which pales in comparison to what we pay our recruits. Even just at basic training, you're on $50,000 a year, and obviously that goes up. I'd say it'd be similar here, but yeah.
30 seconds! Hurry up, find your back!
Once they're off the bus,
So I did say we didn't get yelled at very much, but I definitely did get yelled at this point. Once we left the recruitment offices, it was on from then. Yeah, we were getting yelled at from then. Probably the most intense period was when we got off the bus. We thought we were going to be, treated nicely, and yeah, got yelled at like this.
the first order of business is establishing the code of conduct.
Because I promise you, if you don't pay attention to what I'm about to tell you, you're going to make your Army career very short. You treat everybody with dignity and respect, regardless of race, religion, color, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, and all other protected categories. Yes? Yes! Sexual assault is any unwanted physical contact in its sexual nature. So if you put your...
So we didn't go through this, but it became part of mandatory training. So weekly, yearly sexual assault, don't be a dick to anyone sort of training.
Put your hands on another individual and you're not instructed to, or you're not saving their life, and they file a sexual assault, and it comes down that you put your hands on this individual when you weren't supposed to, that is going to be on you. You will get kicked out of the military, and then you'll probably have to file as a registered sex offender. Do you understand?
So obviously very common sense, political correctness gone mad, or is there a need for it? Bit of both, I think. What do you guys think?
Before they go inside, the new recruits learn some basic commands and standing positions.
Everyone look down at their toes. You should be able to fit a slice of pizza in between your toes. If you look around, they're gonna see you, cause you're taller than everyone else! Quickly! Who wants this arm? Let's move your feet! Grab one and go, it's all the same!
The recruits grab the snack that's waiting for them inside, consisting of a fruit cup, sunflower seeds, a granola bar, and a juice box.
Watch the video, remain safe!
Since 1775, the Army...
So one of the harder things I found in basic training was the long days of physical work and then sitting in a room watching a PowerPoint and trying not to fall asleep. And literally, if you fell asleep, you'd have to stand up and walk to the back of the room, and yeah.
has been the bearer of our nation's strength in every crisis or conflict. Make no mistake about it, the journey you are embarking upon will not be easy. But you wouldn't be here if we didn't think you couldn't meet the challenge.
Listen up, your last 4-year social.
After being welcomed, recruits begin what's known as processing, which can take 1 to 2 weeks before their actual training begins.
So I can see why maybe it takes a little longer. All that stuff is done before we get to Kapuka or your basic training.
In a little bit, we're giving you a period to go in a room by yourself.
First, they're given one last chance to discreetly dispose of prohibited contraband like drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and inappropriate photographs.
If any photo you possess on your phone is less than a bathing suit, you will not have it. You will delete.
Yep, same in Australia. Obviously no drugs. I can't imagine anyone would bring drugs. But yeah, had to hand our phones in. Couldn't possess any pornography, indecent material. If it was found, the whole platoon would be punished. So yeah, a lot of this stuff people wouldn't bring, but some of the stuff, some people get a bit smart and try and sneak it.
Recruits get rid of contraband in an amnesty room, where they dispose of it by throwing it down a metal chute.
Is anybody confused on what you can and cannot have?
Morning, the recruits report to the barber shop, where one barber has worked.
This part of my training was probably the point where I realised, fuck, I'm really in it now. I'm actually in the military. When you go back and see your lanky, skinny self recruit in the mirror and no hair, you think, yep, it's hit me now.
At Fort Benning for almost 60 years.
I've been here ever since 1963.
That's cool.
That's a long time. I should have been retired a long time ago, but I wake up in the morning now, I be wanting to come out here and go to work.
Recruits are issued uniforms. They receive a series of immunizations and vaccines.
Yep, so still the same. You get all your kit. It's pretty exciting until you realise you have to have it all displayed a certain way. I never got 2 jabs in each arm, but we definitely had a lot of inoculations while I was there.
And get their official photo taken, along with myriad housekeeping details that fill up their 1 to...
People in the Australian Army, do they do that now at basic training, the official photos? The only time I got an official photo was when I deployed overseas, and we all know what that's for, so yeah.
2-week stay in processing.
Hey, sit up straight.
That is, until processing ends, and the time for training finally arrives.
Yeah, there's no...
Grab your bags and go.
We found a company of recruits about to begin training in the armor school.
Those are bridle.
These recruits are about to be picked up and taken.
Okay, so it seems that their basic training incorporates their employment training. So it'll be like Kapuka, Australian Army basic training, Kapuka mixed in with your IETs at Singleton for infantry. Cool idea. I guess they go to their unit and learn more. But yeah.
Into their barracks, where they'll reside for the rest of their training.
Yeah, there's no walking. There's no running normally allowed at basic
Let's go.
training.
You guys are going to the front. Bus, go.
This is the last chance for recruits to change their minds before training begins, like one recruit who decided to stay behind.
Another point I'll make, getting on these buses is something of the best comfort you'll have throughout your training. Occasionally they'll have music on there if the your commander hasn't gone on there and told the bus driver to turn it off. You get to sit down for a while, it's good.
This short bus ride from processing to their new barracks will be the most peaceful moments these recruits will experience for a while. What happens next is known as the shark attack.
Run! Run! That goes on! Who you want? You want run! Everyone you freaking go! Go! Run! Run!
They say what? Get your bags up right now! Get your bags up!
This way! Let's go! You're a tough guy! Go!
Yeah, so we didn't have stuff like this. You could get, if you did something particularly wrong or bad, you'd get yelled at like this. But otherwise, you'd be getting yelled at as a team, as a platoon. Yeah, I don't know what I feel about this. Is it just unnecessary? I think they did recently change this whole Shark Week thing. It is necessary in some ways because when you're in shock, someone is, and you are in the fight or freeze, and you're frozen, you need someone to yell at you and snap you out of it. So I understand that, but more so in the Australian Army, we got yelled at as a whole.
Do something! That's what I thought. How do you still not understand this? He just said it!
Well, it's really just a little shock to the system so we can break them down to build them back up.
And that comment right there, breaking them down and build them back up. When we went to basic, we were told that they're not going to break us down completely, that they want our life experience, and they want to build on top of that, not completely take it away. It's what happens anyway, but yeah.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut the hell up!
We're breaking a lot of habits from the civilian world, and nothing better than a little shock to the system to establish that drill sergeant is in charge, to let us start our training.
Pick up your bag and hold it!
The recruits spend much of the shark attack holding their heavy rucksacks above their heads,
Over your head!
which takes a physical toll.
Why is that so difficult?
You can't pick that bag up. You decided to join the army and you can't pick that bag up.
Right side bag, right side bag, right side bag.
After about 20 minutes, the intensity begins.
I mean, you can see the look on this kid's face. He's got no idea what he's doing. Everything he does isn't right. Everything he thinks he does is right is wrong. You're never going to please these people.
To subside. And the drill sergeant's tone changes
We only produce the best soldiers in the United States Army.
before training officially begins. After the shock and awe of the shark attack, things do appear to calm down.
And you can see same sort of kit we would have used. They're putting a lot of people through the unit, so it's just hand-me-down, older gear, older helmets, older webbing. When you get to your actual unit, you normally be issued better stuff.
Is it a video?
It's a movie.
I always wanted to be a star.
We found this group of infantry soldiers in week 11 of their training, practicing on the firing range. The mood was much more
Same weapon we use. It's got a different designation. It's a saw. We call it the Minimi. Even use the same sight.
relaxed,
Try to get ate up on my level.
and their conversations with their drill sergeants are conducted at normal volumes.
Yeah, so this would happen to us after pretty late on in basic training. And when you go to your employment training, it's a bit more relaxed.
Like when this drill sergeant educated the recruits on the meaning of the military expression, ate up.
Is a piece of ate up gum good? You don't want something that's ate up, right? You want something fresh. You break the seal, it smells like olive oil, right? Okay.
That dynamic changes because we want the soldiers to become more critical thinkers. At that point, we are turning into more coaches and mentors.
Yep.
We dial it back a little bit, so we don't want them frightened. We want them to be comfortable and in a state of mind that is receptive to learning and performing at that level.
You started a podcast in the morning, and you're going to finish it on your afternoon walk. Stay.
Up to 241 hours of infantry OSIT are devoted to marksmanship.
Yeah, so we did a lot of marksmanship. Not at base. We did some at basic training, but the stuff they're doing here was more so infantry training. combat sort of
where
shooting.
recruits fire about 2,500 rounds using the M4 carbine.
Tell you what, no matter how much you love guns, a day at the range is pretty boring and loud, and you get to go shoot and you have to wait for everyone else to shoot. So yeah, you're cleaning your weapons the rest of the time. It's never going to be clean enough. You're not going to be able to sleep. You still got to, you always got to be doing something at basic.
As well as the M249 Squad Automatic Weapon, or SAW.
We create lethality. We create expert marksmen at their individual weapons, because as an infantry soldier, that's what we're asking them to do.
Recruits get one of the most painful parts of training out of the way early.
CS gas. So I've done this. Wasn't a part of basic training. Not sure if it's part of infantry training at the moment. But it was before we deployed, where CS gas would be used. It's not. Well, it is fun, but it sucks.
We check your seal. You will not touch your promat.
This group of infantry recruits was exposed to CS gas, or tear gas, in week 1 of their training.
You're going to continue to file in until we tell you to stop. You're going to place your back against the wall.
The recruits spend about...
So what we had to do was walk in there with our mask on, take it off, say your name, rank, serial number, if you could, then put it back on, purge the mask of any gas, and yeah, so on and so forth. We did have one guy that dropped his canister on the ground, and the poor fella, it became keepings off that guy, and he had to crawl out of the room.
5 minutes inside the gas hut.
It affects your skin and everything as well too, so the gas mark doesn't fully protect you.
Gas hut. The recruits are told to flap their arms like birds to remove excess gas from their uniforms. According to a drill sergeant, the effects of the gas begin to wear off.
Tip for young players that are going to go and do this: once you've done this and you head back to your lines or your barracks and you wash your clothes, don't put them in the dryer. Hey, put them on a clothesline, let them dry with the air and the sun. Otherwise, you're going to get secondary exposure.
Off after about 4 minutes. Some training moves indoors, like combatives, where recruits learn hand...
When I was in, we did none of this. A little bit in infantry training, but now it's coming as a bigger deal. But yeah, I did none.
...to hand self-defense tactics.
We're trying to teach them to achieve a dominant body position. So get out of one negative position and then switch roles so they end up having the upper hand in a fight.
During combatives training, recruits warm up with a particularly painful-looking
I should say they do this now, just not in my time.
Exercise, referred to as the EO. While laying on their backs, they have to engage their core to wiggle across the entire room.
That would suck.
They use their momentum, shoulder blades, their core to help them create space, warm up the body.
Recruits work up a major appetite during training. But Fort Benning is big, and they're not always within range of the dining facility. When they're training in the field, recruits are issued MREs, which stands for Meal Ready to Eat.
So we do the same thing. Some days at the range we get hot boxes from the mess. A lot of blokes would prefer the ration packs though, to be honest.
Comes with an entree, like this vegetarian pasta with taco sauce, along with an assortment of items like mixed fruit, an energy bar, and this instant French vanilla cappuccino. Recruits just add water, shake it up, and enjoy.
I've always been jealous of American MREs. You can heat them up without fire. They've got cool shit. Half the time outfield, I'd be eating my rations cold because you can't have a fire, obviously. Yeah, it weren't the greatest quality. Yeah.
Once they're fortified, recruits return to their training. Recruits spend up to 60 hours in training known as MOUT, which stands for Military Operations.
So again, this wasn't at our basic per se, but more so you do this either at your unit as a specific capability or during your infantry training.
in urban terrain.
Door left. One man calls door left.
Infantrymen are expected to fight in different types of terrain and survive and win the fight. Right now, they are getting their first taste of what that's like in an urban environment.
Rolling T. All right, coming up.
In operations across Afghanistan, Iraq, we are conducting clearance operations, and it's applicable wherever we go.
Boom.
It's important for the future soldiers' muscle memory because they are working as a team with minimal communication, and they have to understand how that coordination works together.
Do it again.
After 22 weeks of training, these infantrymen are ready to leave Fort Benning. Friends and family gather to
Fort Benning, they must carry out more infantry-specific stuff, I'd imagine.
watch their soldiers graduate on NOA Field.
They look like soldiers. They act like.
Just another quick one there. So the parade ground in Australia, at least, is considered sacred. Originally or historically, it would be where we would place our dead. That's why you can't walk across them without marching or run or do anything stupid. So yeah, it's hollow ground.
Soldiers. They're carrying their head high. I have trainees that were not alive when 9/11 happened. I think that's pretty powerful that I still can find American citizens that want to volunteer to serve their country when we continue to ask them to go to combat.
These new infantrymen don't have long to greet their loved ones.
Get on the bus!
So they're 22 weeks. So yeah, our infantry training is around the 11-week mark as well. So it's about the same, 22 weeks to become an infantryman. We do ours at just separate areas though.
Or say goodbye to their friends before leaving Fort Benning to begin their service in the United States.
That's the weird thing. You make so many good mates at basic training. And to be honest, a lot of them, unless you go in the same unit together, you never really see again. You might see them on an exercise and that. It's weird. You go through some hardships, then you go to the real army and realise that's a lot harder. So yeah.
States Army.
Alright guys, so what did you think? I think the US Army's come a long way. I'm not real sure how their basic training progression to your employment training happens. It seems like it's somewhat combined. In Australia, we'll do our 80 days at Kapuka and then get bussed off to your specific school for your corps. I don't think the yelling's an issue really. Same thing happened in the Australian Army, just in a different way. So yeah, cool stuff to see. Very similar but very minor differences as well. I'd love to see what other people think from other countries and even have a chat with them about how their basic was compared to American basic training. We seem to think that all basic is the same from the American movies. So yeah, cheers guys, and I'll see you next time. If you have any videos you'd like to see an Aussie veteran react to, let me know. Join the Discord. Again, hit the like button if you liked it, and thanks for staying till the end. Cheers.